This episode is taking place live in the MM+M studio. So glad to be joined by Andrea from Klick. Andrea, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
I'm glad not only that you're in person, you said it was your first podcast. So for any listeners out there that have anything critical about Andrea, keep that to yourself. She's going to do a great job here.
Fingers crossed.
Exactly. Beginner's luck, all that sort of stuff. But that's not the reason we have you on here. The reason we have you on here is because, one, you're part of what I told you offline is probably the hottest agency in the business right now, Klick Health. But the other one is too that you were a juror at Cannes. That's where I want to start the conversation before we talk about everything that's going on at Klick. Talk to me a little bit about your experience being on the pharma jury at Cannes. Was this your first time at Cannes? Or?
This is not my first time at Cannes. My first time on a jury at Cannes. And it's one of the most amazing experiences that I think a creative can go through. It's been a goal of mine for almost a decade. So when I got the email from the festival, it was a very humbling moment. And I put a lot of pressure on myself over the 2 days in the jury room, because I feel like at Cannes Lions especially, you have a responsibility going into the jury to set the standard, set the bar for the work for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a student of the festival, and after the awards are given, you go back to your agency and you sit there and you comb through Love the Work and you see what won Grand Prix, what won gold, silver, bronze, and you use that as inspiration. So I think that we had such an amazing opportunity to help set the stage for creative in pharma for the next year, the next few years.
It's interesting when we had Chris Charles on here from 21 Grams of Real Chemistry, one of your fellow jurors, he had said the same thing. He's like, one, he had that holy shit moment of like, oh, I got selected to be on here, but then the pressure that comes with it and stuff. And I'm curious, like, we just got done with the judging for the MM+M Awards, which special plug for the listeners, those will be out about this time next week. So keep an eye out for the short list. But obviously people take a lot of pride and responsibility that you talk about there. Like, how do you prepare yourself for that? Are you looking back at like the work from the past couple of years? Are you looking at the stuff that's been released over the year? Like, how do you go into Cannes being like, I'm fully prepared to like dive headlong into this for 2 days?
Well, first of all, you have to watch about 200 in pharma, 200 case films before you even step foot in the jury room.
Yeah.
So you're kind of prepped. And I think that in that process for myself, it's a very like blink observation moment, right? So you're watching these case films, and sometimes brands will enter into 10, 15 different categories. So it gets a little repetitive, but I watch them all and I sort of marinate on them. And then the ones that I keep remembering are the ones that I'm excited to talk about with my fellow jurors when I get there. So I think that was the prep, like just immersing myself in all of the case films and not thinking about it, and then waiting for those things to kind of pop into my mind as I'm walking into the office or just doing daily activities. So it was steeping myself in the work that would be discussed.
I like that. I like that comparison to tea and everything like that. Talk to me a little bit about actually being in the jury room too. Like, you do all this prep work, then you're in there, and it's not only obviously you're there with Chris and some other North American, but there's people from all around the world who have a whole different perspective. I remember reading Madden's recap, and I think Chris made the point where he's like, yeah, people didn't, about the Novartis campaign, they didn't understand what a tight end was if you live in Argentina or the Philippines or something. So like, what was that dynamic of working with kind of the international coalition there?
Yeah, it was really cool because our eyes were open to a lot of different things. Like the gold winner for Make Love Last for Viagra was based in
Which was
China.
a really interesting.
Absolutely love that campaign. But and that was one of the ones that I think unanimously rose to the top. But there was a lot of cool discussion about, the Asian markets, what it needed to take to get something like that approved in China. And then there was also another idea that won bronze for a pharmacy called Tata MG in India. So there was a lot of discussion around like, oh, okay, in those types of markets, what does it take to get the supply chain of a medication through? Like, how is that hack valid? So it was very cool to have these conversations with jury members from around the world, because I feel like us as North Americans don't get that experience as much. So it was very cool to have conversations that went deeper than just creativity in general.
It's got to be a little eye-opening too. Like, I talk with people that are based in the US all the time, and it's like, oh yeah, we're dealing with the FDA and we're dealing with our MLR process and everything like that. And then you're talking with somebody who's like, say, from Thailand, you're like, oh, so this is like what your go-to-market and commercialization stuff, that's got to be a completely eye-opening experience, but also like, hey, how can we take some of those lessons and apply it to some of the stuff that we're doing here?
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the conversations that we had around Make Love Last, because, unlike in the United States, in China, they can't market to consumer, period. And they can't even talk about their product. So it was inspiring.
Kind of a tough challenge there when you put those.
Tough challenge, right? So it was very inspiring to see an idea that could solve for both of those problems while still being incredibly beautifully executed from a creative perspective and also a cultural perspective. The product is for MD. Everyone knows what Viagra is, but the way that they creatively solved the relationship, like it wasn't just for men. And we had a beautiful discussion about this in the jury room. It spoke to men's pleasure, but in the way that they filmed the couple together, the way that it was written, it also talks about female pleasure. And we really loved that about it for a creative solution and a gold-winning creative solution. So
I think it's interesting too. Like one of the things that stands out to me when I think about like different men's health campaigns that we've covered, whether it's for, I think Viagra is kind of that same thing. And trust me, like I've been raised in that whole era. I remember like seeing the Blue Little Pill, and it's on every late night monologue, and it's Bob Dole and everything. But then to be able to reframe it in a way where it's like, no, we're taking the woman's perspective in that too. I think about with the stuff that we've covered about, say, Peyronie's disease or prostate cancer, where it's like, oh yeah, it's affecting the man singularly, but then there's the ripple effects of like the other people in their lives. And I think that was a really beautiful way that they took it in a creative sense. Something's been on the market for 30 years. And it's like, well, what if we reimagine it from this perspective? And obviously you all agree with that in the jury room too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also speaks to like the ongoing inspiration, right? So all of the creative teams who are working in those types of disease states are now going to look at this as a benchmark and think about that as they continue to evolve their own creative. Like, okay, so sure, this is for men's sexual health, but how can it's also for partners. How can we weave different perspectives? And I think that that's like a beautiful longevity to awarding great creative work.
I want to talk a little bit more about the work that you saw too. And like, again, I was not surprised when I saw Novartis won. When they first pitched us that under embargo and we covered it ahead of the Super Bowl and everything, like just brilliant idea, execution was there. It's obviously had a long tail too. So I wasn't surprised by that. What did you also notice in terms of maybe some of the other winning work or nominated work that stuck out to you in terms of like different thematic elements or trends?
So, I mean, humor was a big one. We won't talk about it too much because Novartis, Relax Your Tight End was beautiful humor. Even the Make Love Last had humor in like a really subtle, elegant way. I think that simple hacks also were spoken a lot. So the silver awarded piece was the Safe Pack for 2 Pharma 365 in Madrid. And we loved that in the jury room because it was an innovation that had nothing to do with AI, nothing to do with technology or digital anything. It was simply setting up a problem in Spain. People who are getting their prescriptions filled, the way that the packages are, they all look the same. The brand names are all the same. So a person doesn't know if they're taking their diabetes medication or their heart medication. So what if we created a simple design sleeve that the pharmacist could just pop on top of the box so that when John goes home to take his medication, he knows to take the diabetes one at 2:00 in the afternoon and the heart one at right before bed. So it was just a very simple solution that wasn't expensive, that wasn't overproduced, that helped save people's lives. People could no longer need to die from taking the wrong medication. So, innovation in a way that was so simple, wasn't overly expensive, was huge for us in the jury room.
And I know that's something that I get a lot too when people are like, oh, you're a journalist, what do you cover? And I say medical marketing. They're like, oh, those ads you see on TV and stuff. I'm like, that's the lion's share of it. And obviously there was the Super Bowl ad and, the different DTC stuff. But that's one where it's like, this is medical marketing at its most practical and basic. And it's good to be able to see that work awarded too, because it's like, yeah, that has just as much value, if not more, than say if I see this plaque psoriasis drug while I'm watching the NBA finals or something like that. It's really cool to be able to see like, oh yeah, this is something that is effective and gets honored in such a way.
Yeah. And it was one of those things that was so simple that everyone was kind of saying, haven't we thought of this before? Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of that coming back. It's just half the value of going to Cannes. I want to talk to you. You brought up AI, and it wouldn't be a conversation that I've had in the past what, 4 years where AI doesn't come up in some sort of way. What was, from the work that you looked at, like, what was your impression in terms of AI's impact? I know a lot of people, as I was going into it, were like, we're going to see how many people actually use it, and it's under consideration. Like, did that actually amount to anything in the jury room? Did that come up a lot?
Honestly, a lot of the work that rose to the top did not have a heavy hand in AI. And, just recently, the Academy Awards came out with a huge press release saying that they would never award creative and movies that used AI to develop the work. And I think that we kind of all had that as like a little bit of an undertone too. So it was very intentional. Like if AI was used in a certain instance and it felt intentional to the creative, intentional to the storytelling, then it made sense. I don't think we looked at a single thing that was just like, oh, AI created this whole piece, So I think that the way that agencies and creatives are using AI into the future needs to always be used as a tool to support a creative idea that a human came up with. Because, AI is looking to the past. Anything that you generate with AI has already happened, and AI is just aggregating and spitting out new things. Humanity is unexpected. Creatives are going to be able to come up with unexpected ideas into the future. So I think that there always has to be some sort of human element and a human manipulation of AI to create good creative work.
I love the way that you put that, and I think it goes back to talking about the humor that you saw in a lot of these things. It's so interesting when I talk with creatives, because they're like, we want pharma to be more funny, but then it's like, we don't want it to be like laugh out loud, like we're making fun of the patient or disease state. But it's like, that's also something that AI just can't do. If we've seen any example of these different platforms, you can't get ChatGPT to tell you a joke, and it's like, why would you then put that in an ad?
Right. And especially because pharma has been so traditionally cheesy that you could say if AI is going to be funny, they're just taking a look at all of the cheesy stuff from the past and regurgitating that, right? So I think that humor, I love the way humor in pharma resonated this year because it was subtle and elegant and very well done. And I mean, there were some pieces that we saw that used humor and you were just like, no. So I think that, with us humans continuously putting our lens and, we all know what's funny, what makes us truly laugh, to continue to use that lens moving forward and evaluating humor in pharma, I think is going to be crucial.
I did love what you were pointing out there, where it's like, oh, it's looking to the past. And the first thing that popped in my head for whatever reason was like a third bathtub on the beach, like overlooking the ocean, those old Cialis commercials. So it's like, that's free for any listener out there too that wants to go and pitch that. Please give me credit, Jack O'Brien. I wanted, if there's anything else too, because I want to talk a little bit about obviously how Klick did at Cannes, but like, is there anything else from the jury room that you think is important for our listeners, your peers, to keep in mind as they're looking ahead to Cannes 2027? We've talked about the AI and the humor aspect. I know that craft is a big focus going into, is like kind of as a reaction to AI, is like really honing in on the craft of certain work. But is there anything else that, comes to your mind in terms of trends?
I mean, I think that there's a huge opportunity in pharma now. I think that across the board, at Cannes specifically, we noticed a lower level of entries. And in pharma, I think that that's an opportunity to truly, as a creative myself, working with your strategy partners, your account partners, your client partners on really pushing the work to be something that everyone views as award worthy, submit to really help continue to push the bar in pharma moving forward. So I just want to see more work.
Which was, if there was a criticism that Jameson had, and he talked about it when he sent us a dispatch on the ground and when we had it on the podcast last week, is that the bar elevated. The work was definitely more quality than it was last year, but he had even said it was harder to find. There weren't as many submissions, and he was kind of disheartened in that way. You don't seem to be as disheartened, but just more of acknowledging that's the state of play.
Yeah, that's the state, and it made me excited to come back to work after being in France because, if you go now to Love the Work and you look at all the winners, you can kind of, as a creative, see, okay, there are holes in creative data. Maybe there's even holes in innovation. I know that the Simple Pack won in innovation, but like, what else could we be doing? So I think that it's just an opportunity for all of our clients and creatives and strategists to really like look at the work and see, okay, well, maybe there's an opportunity in this space that we can play and to really push our clients to go there.
It's good to see that as a form of encouragement rather than just being like, oh, it's the dour state of affairs. So that's good to know. And on the opposite of dour, I should have a word here because I'm the word guy, but I don't. The best case scenario, the euphoria that was experienced by Klick. Talk to me about taking home both healthcare agency and network of the year, because that's
independent
of the
year. Yes, thank you. No.
We can go down the run sheet of all the awards, but what was that like? I mean, those are two that I know had been on the bulletin board for a while of like, we want to get those. And same night.
I mean, it was a very interesting experience this year because going into Cannes, we were all so incredibly proud of the breadth of work that the agency had done up until this year, that all of us didn't have really much anxiety. We didn't know what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We did not expect this, but we just felt so proud and awarded in general of the work that, you know, we had submitted and the work that we had done for our clients over the last year, that we were content. So this was just cherry on top. And I think, you know, working with my team and everything that Rich Levy has done at Klick Health over the last 6-7 years has been instrumental in getting the agency to where it is. We're all so humbled and proud and just really love one another and the work that we're doing. This is like so true. We all just love each other. That it's just a product of that. It's a product of that trust, that great relationship that, you know, Rich and the senior leadership team has kind of created this beautiful space for us. And it's a product of that.
So what is that? Like, I think back to like when we won the Neil Award back in April, and that had been something that I had been aspiring to for a number of years and being like, thank you. It's similar to the fishing conversation we had offline. But no, it's one of those things that like, I remember getting it, and it's kind of like the dog that finally catches the mailman, where you're like, oh wow, I did it. And then you're like, whoa, like what was that initial reaction for you where it's like, oh, like we won this? Like, is it immediate, like just yay? Is it like shock? Like where do you go?
It was extreme excitement. There were tears shed. And then, you know, there were a small group of us who knew the news. And I guess I can tell this story. Rich had made the decision to not tell everyone who was there with us. So until we were all sitting there and, you know, they start to announce, okay, we're agency of the year is coming up. And we kind of look around and being able to see the surprise on all of our peers sitting there was like a beautiful moment as well. And then we get up on stage and we're like, okay, yay, take the picture. And we turn around and then there was a small group of us who were like, but wait for it. And they had us turn around. So it was just like a beautiful moment of celebration. And coming together, and yeah, it was a really, really beautiful day for everyone at Klick.
When did you get to bed that night, if you got to bed?
Oh God, we were talking about this on the way here. Late. We had a great celebratory dinner after. There were sparklers and toasts, singing. There's always Backstreet Boys singing for some reason in our group. So it was really good. It was funny. You know, I had people calling me. We're sitting there after we won. I have WhatsApp calls coming on my phone. It was from people in New York and Toronto. So it was a great global moment, I think, for the agency.
That's awesome. You have the Backstreet Boys playing, and I'm glad that our podcast producer was able to dress up in character for you as well. That's just for you.
The tips, the highlighted tips.
You want to tell the listener before we?
Yeah, just so it makes sense. I can't turn my camera around, but yeah, I guess I frosted my hair because my wife frosted my twin 7-year-old's hair. So I wanted to be a part of the boys club.
Yeah, see?
That's it.
And he looks dashing as ever. And he's a great podcast producer to boot too. So that's a little sidetrack there. But wanted to also ask you too. So you have all this. And I guess it's different. Like if I'm thinking about it from a strategic or a business perspective, it's like we have all this but you're from the creative bend, and so it's like it's nice to have these accolades, nice to be recognized and have all those honorariums. But where do you then go from there? How do you take that momentum and say okay, it's not pressure that I'm trying to live up to, but it's more of a validation of the work that I've already done. how do you actually take that into the future?
As I mentioned, there's a huge opportunity in the pharma space, and it's really now coming back to our creative teams, taking the momentum of this win to spread that to everyone at the agency. You know, how can we talk to our clients about the great place that Klick is right now, inspire them with the work, inspire them with the great storytelling, some of the personal stories that we've, won for with our clients over the years, and how that can help even the niche storytelling within the disease states that we work for. So I think that there are multiple levels of how to engage clients in the excitement and momentum to make them hungry for it as we creatives are. And I think that, anyone who comes back from Cannes has this like fire inside of them. And that's the great opportunity of going. And, Klick is a very special agency that they invite all different disciplines. Like, it's not just creatives that go. And I think that that's special because it helps unite our strategy partners, our medical partners, our account leads on ways to talk to clients that get them equally as excited, so that we're all driving towards more impactful work.
Absolutely. And again, it's been the culmination these past couple weeks of obviously the honors at Cannes, number 2 on the MM+M Agency 100, one of the 2 agencies that are over $700 million in revenue, which is very impressive. And then obviously acquiring Oxford Pharmagenesis, a fellow A100 honoree. Like, there's just so much going on there at Klick. And so I was so glad when, we were able to put this podcast together to be able to have somebody from the agency come on the show. All of this said, we've talked a lot about Klick and your work and everything at Cannes. I'm always interested, because I haven't been to Cannes, in terms of favorite memories outside of the actual work of it all. And I'm curious if there's something in terms of, a party, a celebrity encounter, networking, like what stands out to you when you're looking at like I wasn't working, but I was at Cannes, and this is a great memory I have.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I've had an extremely amazing opportunity to visit the festival. This, I think, was my 5th year. And every time I go, it's a completely different experience. I think one of the best is that it's a truly global gathering place. So we are all able to meet with our production partners and other agency people that are, working in Spain or working in Singapore, or working all over the place, and kind of come together. So that's one really amazing aspect of it. Everyone is there for creativity. So it's just a communal place to get together and nerd out with your peers too. And it's a celebration. I mean, I think that so often we all get lost in the drive of like, okay, we need to be doing all of this work. Our bar is set so high that none of us really take the time to like enjoy that success with one another. So I think that maybe that's my favorite part is, quietly sitting at the dinner table. The champagne has been flowing, the sparklers have come, and I look across, this is going to make me tear up a little bit. I look across the table to some, fellow colleagues. This is their first time at Cannes, and I can see them getting that fire, that drive, and maybe they haven't won a gold yet, but they bring that back with them. And like, I see my younger self in them, and just like the beauty that competition and creativity can have on people who really want to do great things for human health. I think that that's like such a beautiful thing. So watching some of my younger peers really sit in the moment and sort of seeing them digest it is really inspiring, and a beautiful place, and a fortunate place for me to be. So I think that that's my favorite memory.
That's such a thoughtful sentiment to share. I was expecting what I've heard from other people, where it's like, oh, I saw Kevin Durant at the Spotify beach party or something like that.
I did.
That's such a nicer way of looking at that time spent. But
I did get to meet Hoda Kotb for a very brief amount of time.
Shout out Hoda.
Yes. Which was very, very cool. And I saw her and I was like, oh, my mom would be so impressed if I took a picture with Hoda. And the colleague I was with, he was like, go up and introduce yourself. And And I was like, okay. So I did. And she was so nice and took a picture with me. So there's my celebrity moment, Hoda Kotb from the Today Show.
my wife has worked for NBC for going on 10 years now and has always said that you see people on TV and it's one way or another off camera. She's like, Hoda is the nicest person ever. So I'm glad that was
she was so nice.
A universal feeling.
And
there.
apparently Rich and Bernardo and I had lunch at the same place that Oprah Winfrey was.
Oh,
so
okay.
that was also, I was like trying to look through the brush to see her, but I didn't want to be too creepy for Oprah.
That was my entire LinkedIn feed, was just like everyone taking their little cell phone videos from the gallery of Oprah. So that was wonderful. We're going to wrap the conversation here. It's been wonderful not only having you on the pod, but having you in studio. This is also my always reminder to any of the listeners that if you're ever looking to come on the pod, always appreciate it in person. It's always better that way.
That's
Not
awesome.
that we don't enjoy doing it over Riverside, but all this has gone on. It's been a wonderful time being at Klick. What's next?
Oh God, what's next? I think, continuing to just do really important, meaningful work for our clients, digging in to use some of the work that we have won now in the past couple years to inspire more client-driven work. So we're really excited. As you mentioned, this is a great time for Klick, and I think we're just going to keep the momentum going.
Awesome. Well, this has been a wonderful podcast. Your first one in the book.
My first.
It only gets easier
from
here. So thank you so much for coming to the studio, Andrea. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.